And we're live. All right. Well, thank you, Mark, for coming on the show. Mark is the founder of 1020 Marketing. And yeah, just thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, David. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I was excited to, just learn more about your backstory and kind of how you founded and built 1020 Marketing, kind of what you're doing today. So I think the best place to start off is what made you get into the agency space? I feel like everyone has slightly different journey that, just kind of a fun story that
Yeah,
leads to
100%.
how they started.
I guess I can always say that I've been kind of an agency person since the start of my career. I attended a copywriting specific program at in Ontario after graduating with my BCom all those years ago. So in '95, I moved to Toronto and I went to a college called Humber College, and there they had a program that was specifically about copywriting. Like they
Hmm.
had other advertising programs out there, but they were always more general programs. And this program was specific to the history and the techniques and the mindset of being a copywriter. From there, I got internships and, was part of the program, got internships, eventually latched on with the agency that had me as an intern. But my career really didn't take off until I moved to Ottawa and joined a small but growing shop in '98 called Acme Advertising. But my heart and my passion have always been in Montreal. And eventually I moved back and I worked at agencies for a number of years here in Montreal, including FCB Direct and Publicis and other, smaller, more regional agencies. But in 2006, 2007, I broke out and left the agency world. I started to consult. I did some writing here and there, but I also started to get into social. I've had a consulting company for 16 years, but about 7 years ago, I started to specialize in the areas related to small business marketing, location marketing, specifically directory management. And I spun out 1020 Marketing to handle that service at the time with a partner. And after year one, my partner left and he went back to work in his natural habitat in the world that he had come from. And the company just evolved from there. We were working with smaller clients, and they started to ask us, "Hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that?" And we grew the team around those needs. And the size and the network of our agency grew. Our client roster changed in terms of its own makeup, and we've been working with bigger brands since. So I'd
Cool.
say for 5 of the last 7 years, we've been working as a full service digital marketing agency.
Nice. And it sounds like you've basically been in the professional services and agency world pretty much your full career. Is that right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I left the agency world in 2006, but I started getting into these tools and techniques of social media. I started working with big brands here in Canada, helping them measure and do some reporting related to their digital marketing efforts, including social media.
Hmm.
Um, so, I worked for a number of years doing social media reporting for one of the major airlines here in Canada. And the only thing that, that changed between starting that contract and losing that contract was basically COVID, when they were grounded
Hmm.
and they lost 95% of all their revenue.
Yeah.
That was one. And then from 2012 to 2017, I led a team that did social media reporting or digital marketing reporting for one of the major auto manufacturers, Canadian group. So they had just ventured out into the world of social, and they were looking for a group to act as their independent auditor of their digital marketing program. So we designed that program for them. We managed it for 5 years. In fact, the group that I left is still managing that measurement program for them.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I basically turned this um, a tool that was serving the social media listening industry, and I and built a an agency style reporting team that was using that tool to deliver most of the reporting.
Nice.
So
That's
my
amazing.
world was always revolved around the structure of agency life, if
Hmm.
not a natural digital marketing agency.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I guess, I mean, over all that time in agencies and these other companies, uh, I'm sure you've learned some lessons, made mistakes, had some good wins. Um, what are some stories that you would like to share with others, kind of about maybe like cautionary tales, things like that, that would really maybe help other agency owners not make the same mistakes?
Great. I love this question. The number one thing I learned when I first went out on my own, I did some projects in 2006 with a former colleague of mine. And I'll never forget her saying, because she was maybe 5, 6 years into her own business. And she had said to me, it's going to take 5 years for you to really know what it is that you're going to be, right? I was starting out on my own, I was consulting, and I had no idea what it was going to turn into. But the truth is, it took a lot longer than that. I consulted. I went in and out of doing full-time gigs with clients while handling other work. But when I launched 1020 Marketing, really we were set up as a reseller, and we were really hoping to build on that. But what I learned was one of the most important lessons I've learned, and it's something that I took my eye off of a little bit, was there's a power in the number of clients that you have, depending on the services you're delivering. One of the services that we have is a set and forget service. It's a resale play. It's a low cost value proposition for our clients. Um, but what I learned was I took my eye off that ball a little bit. And in October, when the economy got tight, and those clients who had had for years and years on the platform, who were forming a nice base of income for us, that sort of was like a buffer, let's call it.
Yeah.
When they started to tighten their belts a little bit, I started to lose my buffer. And instead of using those clients um, as a I don't know, a springboard to something a little bit more solid, uh, I feel like I could have done a better job in making sure that those clients understood the value of what we were delivering to them, without taking them for granted because they had just been around for so long.
Yeah. So kind of like basically trying to continue to provide value um, and engage with them at a more regular cadence or something like that, just so they feel like they're more of an
Yeah,
active person, active client.
I think that's it. And I think what happened was, as we started to work with different kinds of clients who had bigger budgets and were counting on us for a lot more work. We're a small team. We're a very senior team, but we're a very small team. And I think we had to focus on the what needed to get done a little too much. And I think with a little bit more communication, a little bit more hand holding, we might have been able to weather that storm. We hadn't had a storm. Everything had been very positive for the first 6 years. There was nothing but a climb in terms of our sales, our revenue, and our profit numbers.
Hmm.
So it wasn't a concern. But in the back of my head, I always felt like I need to give more attention to this. I need to give more attention to this.
And that's so hard too. I mean, I feel like as an agency founder, you're constantly there's lots of things you're juggling, and it's like, well, I have to do this, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing that, and you're really just kind of having to switch gears constantly. So I definitely um, get how that can be a difficult tension. Well, backing up a little bit, I mean, in order to retain some clients, you have to have kind of a good way of acquiring them and growing your client base. What has been most effective for you uh, in the past um, to grow your client base?
So I think, you and I have had some discussions about this. So you have a little bit of insight into where we've been, but in all honesty, like we haven't had a structured approach to growing our business, which is part of the problem. But I think we've been saved by the fact that we actually build really tight relationships with our clients. Those clients appreciate it. So our clients, when they do sign up, are typically with us for the long haul. We generally don't have a lot of clients who are just like, under a year and then disappear. It has happened, but it's not the norm for us to go in that direction. And we get a lot of referrals. I mean, we do have I've been in the business for since 1995. It's almost 30 years. I have a lot of contacts. We've built some really good relationships over the years. And while I know it's not enough to sustain a proper pipeline, it has seemed to have worked for us to date. I wouldn't advise other agency owners to go out there and only rely on that. I'm sure it's not an uncommon situation though.
Yeah, for sure. When you have conversations with folks, I mean, there's a lot of agencies out there, and I know differentiation is kind of a common thing that comes up with agency sales and marketing. How do you think about like communicating your unique value to your audience?
I think that it's interesting. I believe that once I get a prospect on the phone, if they're or in a Zoom or whatever, if they're really taking the project seriously, I believe that we can establish confidence with that client. Um, we are a team made up exclusively of senior members. People who have been in the business, have worked for a very long time at what they do, really good communicators and people who care. And I think it really comes through. I had a client tell me uh, just last week that when they get off the phone with us, the two women that we're working with on the client side, they look at each other and they go, we love these guys. And I think it's just because, honestly, and this was the feedback I got, is that there's a warmth and a care that we genuinely wear on our sleeves when we're working for our clients. And I think it resonates with a lot of people. So, you know, I think getting them on the phone, having a face to face with them, I keep saying phone, but I really mean
Yeah.
Zoom or Google Chat.
Yeah.
Um, I think it comes through. I actually really think it comes through from not just me, but I think from the hand-picked people that we work with
Yeah. That
on the
makes a
team.
lot of sense. Well, when you acquire these clients, you build trust, kick things off. How do you think about keeping them around, retaining clients once you have them? I think you've hinted at this a little bit earlier, but I'd love for you to kind of expand on it.
Yeah, I think it's about communication, to be honest with you. I think it's really about process and communication, making sure that the client understands that what they're paying for is what they're getting and more. I think that's quite important. And again, like I don't want to hammer this nail over and over again, but I think honestly, it's just about establishing a personal connection and relationship with our clients. Like when I speak to our clients, I know about their families, I know about their vacation plans, I know when they're around, I know their health struggles and what's going on, and I follow up on that stuff. And it's not because I'm some brilliant salesperson who is doing it from that perspective. I do it because I actually form a genuine connection with a lot of our clients, and I care about them, and a lot of them become my friends, people who I go to concerts with, or go take go out for nice meals with, and you know hang out with them. And I think that's a part of it. I really do. Obviously, that's a struggle in our remote world in some of these cases, but I do make the
Mhm.
effort to show up.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, it seems like it's kind of like a coworker relationship, like if you're in an office with coworkers, you know, you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So you might as well get to know them and their backgrounds and, and build friendships with them. So um, all the more reason to do that in like an agency brand partnership for sure.
Yeah, I think in one of our earlier phone calls, I had mentioned to you that in some ways we work as an outsourced marketing department for some of our clients. I don't always believe that that's the best kind of way for our clients to think about us, um, but I do want them to think about us in that way from a relationship perspective for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, on the kind of going back a little bit, what are your thoughts on kind of like kind of the sales and marketing approach? What has been most effective? I mean, you hinted at this with just having like very high quality and very senior people with lots of experience. So when they get on
Mhm.
a call, but is there any things that you've seen that have been really effective when it comes to your lead gen or sales processes that you'd recommend to other folks?
I would recommend to other folks that they do not copy us. I would recommend having a process in place. I mean, I really have learned a lot since October of last year about making sure that our pipeline is filled. It's been a struggle. That has been a struggle all along. And like I said, we rely way too heavily on referrals and the kindness of others when we should be marketing. Now, what I will say also is that we have done a really good job of putting out content, I think. Um, and I think that content doesn't necessarily bring in leads, but what it does is it validates our existence to those who are evaluating potential partners. Whether they have discovered us through search or whether they have reached out directly or whether it is a referral. I can tell you for sure that our LinkedIn presence, our blog, our website, those activities have helped us close deals. What we need to do, and is work harder to uh, do that inbound marketing and network offline as well to fill up our pipeline. I don't think we're doing nearly as good a job, and it's actually been a little bit of a I don't know, cathartic experience being part of the Bureau of Digital and seeing that others are struggling with the same thing. I mean, here's a group of literally hundreds of digital business marketing company owners, and I've only been involved for a couple of months, but the first thing I felt was, hey, I'm not the only one in this boat, which
Yeah.
was actually very cathartic.
Yeah, it's nice to know that like you're not the only person struggling with something. But it's also nice to know that like there are some people who maybe have a slightly better handle on it, and so it's like cool. There's a lot of people where there can be some mind share that goes on and some ideas that come from that. Well,
100%.
related to you get new business in, you staff up, um, and you're wanting to retain the talent that you bring in, so you can deliver good results. How do you think about um, finding good talent and keeping good talent?
A lot of the people that I've worked with on our team have been people that I've had exposure with before, people that I've met, people who I've seen work, and people who I've had some kind of relationship with in the past. Now, that being said, I recently went out and hired a new media director, and I did so through a traditional recruitment process. I put out a post on LinkedIn. I announced that we're looking for this person. I built a proper job description for it, and I got a lot of great feedback and opportunities to interview and meet excellent quality people. Um, that process led me to hire somebody who has essentially turned around uh, that division. Somebody who has, well, I don't want to say turned around. The vision was working very well, but she's brought it to another level. And that to me was just about identifying somebody through a process where I was very honest about where we are as an agency, who I want to be, what I want the agency to be, and who I want to have fill that role and the type of mindset that I want that person to have. And I think, and I knock on wood every day, because we found such a wonderful person to fill the role, but she totally understands what it is that we're after. And and she has actually given me feedback telling me that the process of the 2 or 3 discussions we had before we decided to move forward together was a process that she understood and respected, because it was based on me being honest with what we were looking for.
I like that. Has there been any other sorts of lessons as far as the processes for hiring, or any thoughts on like the retention part of it? Like, sure,
Yeah.
a lot of agencies I think have a reputation for um, having high turnover and things like that. And so whenever you have like people that stick around, it's like, okay, well, what's the secret sauce to keep your employees around?
So it's interesting. So we operate under a model where we have some collaborators that we work with, and we have been for the entire existence of the agency's lifespan. But these are freelancers that we call in or have special arrangements with on a per needed basis. Some of them are on some, hourly, retainers, and they get work that is, the extra work, the fill in work, whatever the specialty is. And we've been working with the same group of people for years and years and years in that regard. And then we have people who are more permanent full-time staff. And a couple of things I've learned over the years is, I think I'm the type of person who doesn't like to sit on top of people and make them feel my presence. I like to hire people whom I trust to get the work done. But what I did learn is, even if you do trust people, the work might not get done the way that you're hoping it gets done, or the attention to detail might be lacking, or even just um, making sure that the grind, the stuff you have to grind through is getting done properly, versus the stuff that's more high level. Because we're a small team, we all have to roll up our sleeves and do the work that sometimes we would prefer if a junior person did.
Hmm.
Um, but we try to keep those resources in house as much as possible, to watch our margins and to make sure that we're not just throwing away money. Um, so I would say that for a little while, I felt like I decentralized the process a little too much. I took my
Hmm.
eye off of the day to day, hoping to do the lead gen and the biz and working on the business and not in the business. Um, but since we've made a couple of changes in the last few months, I've actually decided to work in the business a little bit, to almost as a almost as a temperature check, to make sure that I understand exactly what's happening, so that when we do staff up, maybe we're 1 or 2 people shy of where we really should be. But when we do staff up again, I'll understand exactly what we need and what we're looking for and the type of person. And also, listen to the needs of the team themselves. And because they have their own networks of people who they might want to trust and bring into the process as well.
Yeah. Do you have a philosophy? I mean, I know people will say, don't just hire like a clone of yourself. Staff your weaknesses. There's a lot of different sorts of approaches. Do you have sort of an approach that you swear by as far as what you found works best for you?
Well, for me, I mean, there's a lot in this business that I'm not a specialist in, right? So I have to trust that the people I'm hiring are smarter than me, right, and are able to figure out how to solve problems in areas that I basically cannot help them with. Now, that being said, I've been in the business for 30 years. I do have a pretty solid understanding of what media buying is, the strategy behind it and all that sort of thing, as an example. But the execution part, the tools part of it, that's never been my strong suit. So I think the philosophy is, hire people who are experienced and smarter than I am in certain areas, and even in my areas, no problem. And listen to them. I think collaborate with them, listen to them, and trust them, but challenge them as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, last question I have is kind of bringing things full circle. How much has that copywriting uh, degree background served you throughout this entire journey?
It's very funny because when I took that copywriting program, I came to it from a business background. I took a BCom in marketing. Most of the other people that I've met in copywriting or on the creative side of agency life have, come from it from the arts side of it. So I went into copywriting in general more as a business-minded copywriter, which was very odd for a lot of my colleagues, to be honest, because I was the guy who was also concerned about not just building my portfolio, but also making sure that the client's needs were met from a business standpoint.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it made me see the process of working at an agency through a different lens, because I think a lot of people thought of me as a suit on the creative side rather than a purely creative guy.
yeah,
Even though I did have the background and the results to back up my creative credentials, right?
yeah,
So when I went out on my own, I felt like I understood how to structure, you know, client deliverables and how to properly tackle projects. But I also understood the mindset of the creative folks I was working with, and the more, businessy people I was exposed to. So I think the experience of being a copywriter, coming into it from the angle that I did, was actually extremely beneficial for me, because it allowed me to kind of see both worlds, because it's always two sides, right, in an
yeah.
agency. And I think I've been able to kind of eliminate those barriers on the team that we've built.
Cool. Well, and I think too, copywriting just as a profession or as a practice, with all the changes that have occurred over the past 20 and more years, copywriting seems to be the common thread, like the through line that hasn't really changed. It's like, human psychology based, what's going to resonate with your audience, whether that's in a digital ad, a billboard, online, offline, wherever it is. Like
100%.
with that skill set, you can get a lot of mileage out of it. So
Well, it's fun. Listen, I know you want to wrap up. I'll finish with this thought, is that in 95, when I started working as a copywriter, like, it was all about finding a great, headline and wonderful copy, right? But now everything we do is measurable. So, as you know, right? So, um, I think the focus of copy has changed a lot, because we have to be driving conversions all the time.
mhm,
And so the mindset of somebody coming out of the program that I took today would be very different than, you know, my classmates and I 30 years ago.
mm,
But I agree. I totally agree with you. It's being a copywriter is about selling, regardless of the media that you're selling in.
yeah. Well, Mark, this has been a blast to pick your brain a bit. What's the best way for people who are tuning in or who watch this later to follow up and connect with you?
Well, I'd love people to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can visit our website at 10-twenty.ca, or you can email me at mark at 10-twenty.com. And I'm easily reachable, that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on the show, and looking forward to staying in touch.
100%. Thank you, David. I really appreciate the time and effort you put into building this show for everybody. It's a great
Thank
job.
you.
Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Bye bye.